And welcome to the first of 4 bonus videos, where today we're going to be covering Zodiac and the missing spells that we have yet to collect. In the opposite order, it's just Zodiac's the main event here. The reason why this video is so short is just because the stuff we're covering in the future bonus videos are far bigger that they wouldn't all fit in. So this one I thought get the short one out the way first and then the bigger ones come later. Especially because the next 2 videos are both kind of chunky. The first thing I decided to do is finally pick up Yzmat. Yzmat will not be going to do until the 3rd bonus video, but if you are playing along or kind of only loosely playing along, don't go for Yzmat yet if you want to fight absolutely everything that there is in this game. There's an optional super boss in the Great Crystal that will only appear if the hunt for Yzmat has been accepted but you haven't fought it and took it down yet. Which is wild, but it is what it is. Mont Blanc will give you an extensive history on Yzmat before you go into it, essentially saying that Mont Blanc and all the other Mughals you might have met's Grand Master was massacred by Yzmat some time ago, and they have been looking for someone who might be able to take Yzmat down ever since. But since you've done literally every single other hunt and taken down Hellworm, he will now offer Yzmat to you. So if you never went to take on Hellworm, you'll never get given this hunt. Your last one will probably be the Shadow Seer. It says good luck with your mark, and we'll see you on the other side. Despite not being the level I kind of wanted to be, Yzmat is absolutely doable at our level, so we will be going and doing that later on. But for the next small chunk, it's time for spell cleanup. In the first ascent of the Pharos Tower, I mentioned this before, if you go back and kill more enemies and go ahead, you can get Holy over here. Next is one of the ones that can only chance spawn. He is Cleanse. He will get rid of disease if you have it, which is very helpful. It's found over here in the Sorobi Steppes. Although they're short clips, I got Dispelger, and that was Bravery that you saw for a split second at the end there. The only other one you're likely to miss is that if you go all the way back here, which is back in the Barheim Passage, if you go all the way back to the very start of it, Scourge can now be brought, which is your heavy non-elemental group-wide attack. So now you've got all the group-wide master spells because you've got Shock, you've got Scourge, Flare, and Scathe. Back up on top of the 3rd ascent, yeah, I know this was a bit all over the place, but I was kind of I went for it by spell type, so I went for all the white magics first, then all the black magics. Then this was just the only arcane magic we're missing, which is Ardor. Ardor is essentially Fire Azure. It's tier 4 fire damage. Like, no kidding. I don't know why they didn't just make it Fire Azure. But the reason why only fire gets a tier 4 and not Blizzard, Thunder, or any other aggressive spell in the game, is entirely because of oil. The status condition oil makes fire damage do more. So because there's a status condition directly tied to it, they made it so it would have a tier 4 so you can make the most use out of it if you decide to. But back to a location we recognise, it's time to finally return to Zodiac to enact our revenge. Also worth noting, most of those spells we just picked up only have a chance of appearing. If you go to those spots and they're not there, leave the screen, re-enter, check again, and keep doing it until it shows up. If you're getting really unlucky and it's not showing up, something that seemed to work for me, and it might just be luck of RNG working in my favour, leave the area and just quit the game if you're on the PS4 version. If you're on the PS2 version, don't. But if you're on the PS4 or just HD versions in general, you'll auto-save between screens, right? So you just leave the screen, quit and rejoin, then re-enter it, and it always seems to kind of more manually reset it. Right, now the reason why I pause here is because Zodiac used Darkja, and I've got Dark, Immune, and Resistant equipment on everyone, and it just killed Balthier and Ash anyway. The only person it didn't affect is Barsh, which didn't make sense. Or at least, I say didn't affect, did far less damage to Barsh. And in my mind I was like, well, hang on a minute, but it's Darkja, and everyone's got stuff that's immune to dark, and because it's not working, I just swap everyone back. I'm like, okay, so clearly it's not working. What I missed, just didn't realise when I was recording it, only found out later, it naturally has Piercing in its ability list. So all of its spells will ignore resistant equipment or immune equipment. And now the whole party's been set asleep, so you still have to immediately try and think of something else, get Penelo in the action, and then, like usual, get Penelo in the action, then try and get her out as soon as possible, because the only way she's getting out otherwise is death. So there she goes, let's get Ash back in. And at this point I'm like, oh god, I haven't set anything. in my gambits asleep. Most status conditions I end up getting on top of later on, so it's not the end of the world. The biggest threat with Zodiac, other than the fact that its raw stats are brutal, especially in the magic department, is the fact that it will constantly be buffing itself with bravery and faith to boost its attack and magic attack. And then once it's done, it will casually throw out things like Protect and Shell to make it so your damage in return is far lower. The thing also has Scathe, as you just saw there, so you know, laser beams are coming your way whether you like it or not. What do I decide to do here? Oh, Scathe. I know it's been made itself immune to magic, but that will only last so long, so I'm just like, okay, laser beams it is. And despite the fact that at this point we have Cleanse, I don't use it for a while. Also, it's using Darkshire again, and Balfir's on 1 HP. I wonder what's going to happen. But Zodiac is the main part of this entire video, to be honest. It's the rest of this video, and it's not a long one. It's only 16 minutes long. Well, I've got to do a teeny bit of editing, so it'll probably be a little under 16, but as it stands, it's 16 minutes. But the following 2 videos are going to be significantly chunkier, I assure you. Especially the 3rd bonus video. That one is 60 minutes. That one is straight up an hour. And I'm not looking forward to it, because there's like no cutscenes, because it's all optional content at the end of the day, so there isn't going to be any cutscenes. So I have to talk over the entirety of it. My throat's going to hate me by the end of that. That's an hour I'm just not going to be getting back. But we are almost done with this entire project, which is wild to me. Finishing the main story last week, finishing the recording for that, I mean, was a story in of itself because of how long, although you guys don't necessarily see it, how much time I spent behind the scenes trying to get it just right. And yeah, a few things still slipped through or just didn't work out, but there is a lot that I try and do to keep on top of it with editing and such, to just make it smoother for you guys and just cut out some of the downtime or things that don't matter. Also, it has piercing Graviga, so there's no way to get around it, but the magic shield has finally dropped for it, so we can get back to hurting it quite decently again, as it starts casting Faith to make its magic damage more dangerous. Although, as I've said many a times, the later into the game you get, the less significant it is, I still push for a quickening now, just in the hopes. And I get kind of screwed over, because the moment I went to do it was the moment Zodiac's last attack connected and killed Balfir, so I could only use 2 people, which I was a bit like, alright. Thanks, game. Just robbed me of having an extra quickening, so I didn't get that many in. Because I didn't have a full team of 3 to rotate through, so there was less to work with for your luck to give you favour. Of course, as I said before, Expose, Sheer, and the 2 we're still missing, but we get them eventually, are still great help to any of these bosses because they permanently lower their stats. Yes, you can only use it so many times before it stops connecting, but the fact that you can permanently lower it and stack it several times can make a hell of a lot of difficult fights late game far more manageable to deal with, like Zodiac here. Unfortunately, not necessarily in the way I would like, because I can only lower his defenses, not his damaging. If I lowered his attack and magic attack, because if I had those techniques by now, this fight would be over a lot quicker, and I probably would just chuck it on the end of the next one, because this video would only be like 9 minutes. But because I don't have them yet, because I haven't bothered going for the techniques, like when I was going through at this stage, I was like, well, I'm not too fussed about techniques right now, I'll worry about them when they become more important, which is the 3rd bonus video. So at the end of the 2nd bonus video, I go from then. Just as like a thing to clean up at the very end of the 2nd video, because I said the 3rd video is literally an hour long. I couldn't fit anything else in. The entire of the video is one boss fight. I genuinely would not have been able to fit anything else in. It had to be like that. Even then, it was a sharp edit. It's literally like, because on SHAREfactory, and I hope this is something they do away with on the PlayStation 5, your recording limit is an hour. If it goes above an hour, it will not let you process it and share it. It has to be under 60 minutes. So the video is 59 minutes, 59 seconds. Because I did a lot of editing, because the actual raw file was like 78 minutes. And I was like, oh god. But I did a lot of editing, a lot of little cleanup. Like if nothing was happening, or if something just wasn't working out right, I was just cutting it down, and I eventually got it down to 59 minutes 59 seconds, and I was just like, that'll do. I could probably edit it down a little bit more, but at the same time, it's the boss fight. The whole point of it is that it is a absolute mammoth marathon that always requires you to pay attention, because if you're not paying attention, it will do something that will undo your progress. So it's an hour or two of your life that you have to commit to it. Even worse on the original Final Fantasy XII, where your damage limit was 9,999 and you couldn't speed up in any way form. So the fight was actually around 4 to 4.5 hours, assuming you're not using very abusive strats. Like if you get three of the invisible weapons, like you get the bow 3 times, because you can do that if you're lucky enough. Buff their speed, like with haste and such, and buff their physical attack with bravery. You can sit outside the arena, and this boss that we're going to do in the 3rd bonus video, you can end it in about 15 minutes. It's kind of wild, because the raw damage and how quick the fire rate is on the thing, plus you're obviously with haste even faster on top of it, you're just unleashing hell on it. No longer immune to magics, and it immediately uses reflect. So any magic attack going at it will just bounce back at us. So you can see I immediately like, okay, what are we doing here? Oh, I don't notice. I just went to cast Sloga. I don't think I noticed that it used reflect. Ooh, that might be a problem. I'm hoping I've already got Dispel on Ash to cover reflect and not just protect like I did at first. Because otherwise we're in trouble. Well, we already are kind of in trouble. Like I said, your best option usually is actually to have shock, because the charge time isn't as quick, so you can get it out more often than the tier 4s. Banish Ray we also use every now and then, which I don't know how it works, but it seems to always just kind of kill. And at this point I'm just waiting and hoping, because it's made itself immune to physical, so I'm just hoping that my magic users won't die, which they're gonna again anyway, just so we can try and finish this fight against the secret 13th Esper, even though we don't even have the 12th yet. Because in my personal opinion, as it just literally does that, which is fucking brilliant, I think that the 12th summon is harder than this. And at this point I get nervous. I get very nervous. I'm like, okay, Fran is my last chance. Fran needs to win this. And thankfully she just barely got bashed back in before she died. It could have ended then and there if it wasn't quick enough. And it's still a very dangerous circumstance. If anything, it should just show you just how brutal this can be. So I just use a Mega Elixir in the end. I just take the Gambit and say, look, we gotta go for it. We gotta push. Just give it a laser beam, or shock even. We gotta end this now, because we can't risk it doing another Darkja. We just can't. And it's going to. But you can see I'm trying so hard, and Darkja gets readied anyway, and at this point I'm sweating. So I'm like, okay, the last one literally wiped the entire party. Barsh isn't at full health. This could wipe them all again. And if that happens, we're screwed. But for some reason, it only takes down Balthier that time. So I'm like, go for it, go for it. The magic shield surrounding Zodiac fades. Zodiac is no longer immune to magic. Kill it now. Well, I say that in terms of the bosses themselves, Zodiac is probably harder. It's the journey to get to Ultima, the only other Esper we're missing, that I think makes it harder. It's the one that makes me want to go for it last. But we just barely managed to get our secret 13th Esper. And for doing it, you will get a trophy or achievement as well, like exclusively for this one. Same with Ultima, you'll get an exclusive one for taking that one on. And if you've been following along, when we get Ultima, you'll probably nab yourself another trophy and achievement for getting every Esper, including the secret 13th one. But that was a nerve-wracking fight. And you know what's worse? You don't get to really see it, because I just kind of cut away afterwards. I had to then get out of the Hen Mines. There's no warp stone that immediately makes you leave a dungeon or anything. So on like weakened stats and a lot of items used, I had to then get out. Thankfully you can use the back door, so you can cut out a lot of the progress. But at the same time, that was like, oh, when I was here, I was like, I gotta get out yet. But it's 200 license points. I say this, but you can look at our actual license points. We maxed out a while ago. I mentioned it before that we did. It's like they lose their worth, and so 200 license points isn't a big deal. So you see me, I'll go through and try and work out which one it is, and eventually I'll just go, you know what, the extra HP, sure, why not? Even if we're at a point where it doesn't matter so much, I want to chuck it on Ash. I also pick up Ragnarok, even though we're never going to use it, just for the sake of using it. But that being said, next time on Final Fantasy XII, because I know the video's over already, we're going after Ultima and doing the second visit to the Great Crystal. But until then, you guys take care now.